Hi everyone, I'm Aldrin Mendoza from Bachelor of Physical Education. For today's video, we will be having a discussion regarding on lawn tennis. But before that, I have a surprise, guys. So we have a collaboration with my classmate, not one but two, Mr. Roger Panganiban and Miss Abigail Garcia. And now, allow me to discuss the objective of this video. You are expected to attain knowledge about lawn tennis. So, first objective is to discuss the definition of lawn tennis. Second, to gradually examine the history of lawn tennis. And third, to analyze the elements and equipments of lawn tennis. And number four, to discover ways of playing lawn tennis. Are you ready, guys? Let's do it.
History of lawn tennis. The first form of tennis was called jeu de paume, which roughly translated to a game of hands. This was played in the 12th century in France and is the first instance of tennis. Eventually, this transitioned into what is now known as real tennis. Real tennis is commonly played in the medieval times, and real tennis introduced the use of tennis rackets. There are many examples of nobility playing tennis throughout history. One such example is King James I of Scotland, who is pictured here. King James I was an avid player. However, his abilities on the court were less than impressive. In fact, his inabilities to control the ball would ultimately prove very costly for him. In order to prevent the loss of the ball, which greatly irritated the king, he ordered that the drain near his court be sealed. Just 3 days later, a group of murderous assassins came for King James. His escape was blocked and he was killed. By the 16th century, tennis rackets had basically completely replaced hands, and the game was now played in an enclosed area. In the early 1500s, the French began to lead the development of tennis. Francis I encouraged tennis to be played between all classes of people and built many new courts. Henry II, who succeeded Francis I, was a revered player and continued tennis as a royal tradition. Despite all the things French nobility had done for the development of tennis, the game continued to take. King Louis X died after experiencing severe chills after a game. Charles VIII was struck in the head and fell into a coma immediately after his match. 9 hours later, he was dead. One of the most important dates in the history of tennis is 1571. Charles IX granted a constitution to the Corporation of Tennis Professionals, and thus the first pro tennis tour was created, which featured 3 levels: the apprentice, associate, and master. The first ruling of the games were codified in 1599. Around the early to mid-1500s, real tennis became popular in England. Henry VIII was an avid player himself. It is said that his wife, Anne Boleyn, was actually watching tennis when she was arrested. It is also said that Henry VIII is in the middle of the match when news of her execution has arrived. Tennis, always having been a game for nobility, continued to flourish in 17th century in France, Spain, Italy, and Austro-Hungarian Empire. Then during 18th and 19th centuries, real tennis declined and lawn tennis began to take over. The world's first tennis club was created in 1874 and was called the Leamington Tennis Club. Wimbledon was founded in 1877. The US Open followed in 1881. A decade later, in 1891, the French Open would begin. And last, the Australian Open was created in 1905, and by 1925, all four tournaments were recognized as Grand Slam tournaments. As tennis grown into a worldwide sport, the venues become grander and the prize money become greater. If not for radical changes in equipment as well, tennis may not be where it is today. By the 20th century, balls and racket were starkly different than when tennis first originated. In 1967, the first steel rackets, the Wilson T2000, was introduced, which catalyzed the evolution of tennis rackets, resulting steel, and then eventually graphite rackets around 1980. The changing of the rackets, as well as the strings and the balls, completely changed the way the game is played and has unlocked new dimension for the sports. The players are able to play with more power, more precision, and more skills. Today, tennis is ranked as the fourth most popular sport worldwide and has a fan base of around 1 billion people. It is an excellent sport because it can be played year-round with the use of indoor tennis courts and is a sport that can be played well into old age. Tennis most famous athletes include Roger Federer, Serena Williams, Rafael Nadal, Maria Sharapova, and more. In 2020, Roger Federer for the first time became the first ever highest paid athlete in the world, bringing in $106 million. Naomi Osaka and Serena Williams tapped in on the list as well in 2020 with $37.4 million and $36 million respectively. Tennis' old and interesting history, paired with advancement in technology as well as impeccable role models throughout time, has seen it become one of the most popular sports of today. So you should go out and play.
And now, let's move on. We have the equipment of the game. So first, we need to have the shoes, the jersey, and the most important thing is the ball and the racket. So first, let's discuss the ball. So, according to ITF or Tennis International or International Tennis Federation, the tennis ball must be yellow or white between 2.5 and 2.9 inches in diameter and in between 1.975 and 2.095 ounces in weight. And now, we have tennis ball. Next, we have tennis racket. So, tennis racket must be a bat with a long handle attached to a round frame with a network of tight string over it. So it used to hit the ball in tennis. So we have the parts of the tennis. So tennis racket is divided into three parts. We have the head, the shaft, and the handle. So in head, it composed like bumper guard, grommet, bean, and strings, while the shaft is the throat. Next, we have the handle. It composed the bevel, grip, butt, and buttock. And that's it, our equipment for this lawn tennis.
Today, I will discuss to you about the rules and regulation of lawn tennis. Tennis, there's two different ways that you can play. There's double or singles. Doubles would be when two partners plays. Two partners and single is one-on-one the match. Consists of set of games. A set consists of the first person to win 6 games winning by 2 with a tiebreaker being played at 6 all, and the winner of a match is the first to win 2 out of 3 sets. The tie for tennis differs at every club and facility that you're playing at. One of the main recommendations for tennis is an all-core purpose shoe, which is basically a non-making outer sole, just so you don't mark up. The courts and sculpts of the paint job, especially on the hard courts, the equipment needed for tennis is a tennis racket and balls. And then also a regulation court. The court's measurement for doubles is 36 feet by 78 feet. And for singles is 27 feet by 78 feet. And the net is 3 feet high in the middle. There's only a few different lines on the court. There's the double allays with I mentioned earlier, which are used only for doubles. There's the service lines which marks off the service. Boxes where the service where the server has to land, and then there's the baseline which is the fourthers line back on the court. The penalties in lawn tennis are there the foot fault, which is when your foot has gone on or over the line before. You made contact with the serve, there's double fault. You made contact with the serve, there's double fault, which means that you have missed both of your chances to get your serve. In and then there's the let, and the let have two actual meaning. One is you hit a serve that hit the net, and when in which means that you get to repeat that serve and serve only. That let also means any hindrance in play. So let's say your play. People playing next to you hit a ball that rolls onto your court. You can call a let and your play that point, and that point only. I am Abby, that's your rules and regulation of lawn tennis.
Heat 223 individual and dual sports.
Thank you for watching.